Welcome, everyone, to the final Sammies Summer Series of the year. I'm Maggie Moore. I'm the Senior Manager at the Partnership for Public Service, responsible for managing these fabulous Samuel J. Heyman Service to America medals, and it's my pleasure to start today's conversation. The Samuel J. Heyman Service to America medals, or the Sammies, honor exceptional public servants whose efforts have had a tremendous impact on our lives. We created this award more than 20 years ago to build trust in our government, to inspire more people to consider careers in government, and to honor those inside, you guessed it, government. With this virtual series, we aim to shine a spotlight on the dedicated, hardworking Sammy finalists from this year, 2023. Our 27 finalists, both teams and individuals, represent the breadth of the important work being done across the government and on behalf of all of us to make our lives just a little bit better. Throughout the summer, we heard how government demands transparency and accountability, both from itself and from the private sector. We talked about how America is a leader abroad and delivers incredible services to public here at home. Today, though, we're going to be discussing the many important ways that government is a leader in innovation. The conversation will be moderated by my colleague, Mark Lerner, and our panelists include Caitlin Rawlins from the Department of Veteran Affairs, who's part of the VA Immersive team responsible for cutting-edge, nationwide immersive technology to empower frontline staff and enable treatment of veterans for a wide range of medical issues. We also have Vincent Edwards from the Department of Agriculture, who is a Sammies finalist for developing an innovative and highly effective new cotton-based medical gauze and dressings for trauma and chronic wound patients that are being used in hospitals and for frontline responders. And finally, we have Sarah Nelson from the National Nuclear Security Administration, who is part of the National Ignition team recognized for producing the first ever fusion reaction that created a net energy gain. Welcome, Caitlin, Vince, and Sarah. Mark, over to you.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Caitlin, Vince, Sarah, it is such a pleasure to be able to speak with all of you today and an honor to be able to talk with you about your achievements. Sarah, if I could, I'd like to start with you and open our conversation about your particular achievement. So for the first time in December of 2022, researchers from the National Ignition team produced more energy from a fusion reaction than was used to create it. This is a huge scientific breakthrough and one that led to this honorable element. Can you tell us a little bit more about why this is such an important breakthrough and what it could mean for clean power and national security?
Sure, happy to. And thanks for having me on the event today. It's wonderful to talk about the work. So like you highlighted, this was actually a world first for controlled fusion burn in a laboratory setting. It was essentially the equivalent of bringing a star into the lab. And that also has important implications, as you mentioned, for energy and national security. There's a lot of interest in the fusion energy community about this breakthrough, because also, as you highlighted, it was the first of its kind to produce more energy than was required to drive the capsule in the National Ignition facility at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory. So that was a doorway we had to pass through in order to open the doors for the further developments that need to come in order to put fusion, which could be realized someday as a clean, limitless energy source for not only the United States, but the world. There's a lot of engineering to go, but this was a really tremendously exciting first step. The nuclear stockpile is already benefiting from this experiment and the subsequent repeat experiments that we have had. And we are using those data today to inform and protect the stockpile, because we are able to do test articles within the National Ignition facility that are experiencing conditions more severe than we've ever been able to produce in a laboratory environment before. So this experiment is reaping benefits for both the energy community and particularly the stockpile stewardship community.
That's phenomenal and incredible to see that it was, as you said, the sort of opening of a doorway that then led to immediate applications, which is phenomenal to see. Caitlin, I'd like to come to you next to hear a little bit about the innovation that you and your team helped lead. Your leadership drove this innovation in healthcare that's shown incredible promise for our country's veterans, and it uses modern immersive technologies like virtual reality and so on. Could you briefly share how the Department of Veteran Affairs has actually been using these technologies? What does it look like in practice as you go about helping veterans?
Yeah, of course. And also thank you for having me. So at this point, we actually have a vast array of immersive technology clinical uses that might be for suicide prevention, for PTSD, phobias, stress reduction, both acute and chronic pain, social isolation, physical rehabilitation, and that list kind of just keeps going on. What that looks like in practice, it may be positive distraction to aid with something like acute pain management, or it can be teaching very specific skill sets to aid veterans when they're not using immersive technology, like teaching cognitive behavioral therapies and other resilience mechanisms that they might use for PTSD or for anxiety or for pain within that platform. At this point, the VA is actually, we're working to really develop a new or define a new reality in veteran healthcare by leading not only the nation, but the globe in clinical implementation of immersive technology. And we have now deployed thousands of headsets across more than 170 sites of care, including 90% of our actual VA medical centers in all 50 US states, Puerto Rico, American Samoa, and Guam. So we've gotten almost even all the territories covered at this point.
That's phenomenal. I did not realize that it had already been expanded to 90% of the facilities. That's huge. Really, really incredible to see the support that you're giving to our veterans, and I'm sure that it will have implications far beyond. Vince, we sort of have this story that already crosses into your lane from technology discoveries and applications in medicine and in defense. And I'd love to hear about your particular story. Your creation of non-woven cotton fabric technology has taken many industries by storm, notably the medical field. How did you work with potential users of the technology to ensure that it would actually benefit this diverse range of people that it would be applied for?
Right. Well, thanks as well for having me, and thank you for the question and this interesting session on innovation. And well, first of all, our center, as pictured in the background, has as one of its missions, and for the last 85 years, cotton utilization. So two of the most important things we do here are to increase domestic consumption of cotton fibers grown by U.S. farmers and address unmet consumer needs. And you mentioned nonwovens. That's become a very central part of our research in recent years. Nonwoven cotton versus woven, which actually flame retardant and easy wash clothing was invented at our center as well. Some time ago. The non-woven post-harvest utilization that we do then promotes domestic consumption of cotton. And in that regard, we interact with farmers and entrepreneurs to bring new research ideas and products ultimately into the market. So a reflection of the progress in that regard is that we are increasing cotton share in the nonwoven market, and it's continuing to grow. A focus of my research has been to address unmet consumer needs that include chronic wound and hemorrhage control in patients. And so in this country, we have 2.5 million people in U.S. hospitals and nursing homes who suffer from chronic wounds. And that increased, of course, during the COVID epidemic. Pressure ulcers are a very high cost healthcare item. We look at improving contact surfaces for patients in that regard, and preventing pressure ulcers as well as treating them. And then half of all deaths on the battlefield are caused by uncontrolled hemorrhage. So we have been able to develop new prototypes to address some of these unmet patient needs, to bring wound healing and biomaterial science concepts to cotton, and to create what we call intelligent textiles. We're living in an emerging age of intelligence, if you will. I think there was some discussion earlier about the household AI word that we're all exchanging now. So intelligent textiles is one of the things we're bringing to cotton in the 21st century as well.
That's incredible. So now that we've heard a little bit from each of you about the particular innovation that you've been leading, the breakthroughs, the support that it's giving to so many people across our country and globally, I'd like to hear a little bit about what drew you to pursue science and innovation through the public service in the first place. I know each of you have your own pathways that you took to get to this point. And we'll go in the same order. Sarah, we can start with you. What was the part of coming into the public service that really drew you in?
Sure. So my career started in research, as many of ours do. And initially I was working at some of our Department of Energy national labs, applying research to important national problems. And when I was able to see, really understand the magnitude of some of these problems, I thought that something I would enjoy doing would be to keep one foot in the science as a technical person, but another foot in the DC arena to assist in the prioritization and the management of these sorts of research programs. And that's exactly what I'm doing today.
That's great. Caitlin, how about yourself? What was it that drew you into pursuing science and innovation in public service?
I think I'll start with our team first, the VA Immersive team, because I know we all have personal ties to the military and or to veterans. And I know that we're all incredibly passionate about ensuring our veterans not only receive VA care, but that they receive the best VA care. That typically, that means listening to their voices and the voices of our employees to determine what gaps exist, what pain points exist in care delivery or like quality. For me personally, it was a gap that I noted as a bedside nurse. It was a lack of non-pharmacological options for pain management. That led me to seeking out an innovative solution as a VA employee and started me on this VA innovation journey because I was unwilling to accept an unsatisfactory status quo. And as more veterans, had positive outcomes using this technology, I know Dr. Bailey and myself knew that this was an innovative technology worth pursuing, and now VA recognizes that it has the ability to completely transform care delivery and experience, and now we're focused on expanding that application and adding to the evidence-based implementation, which is a path that we take with many innovations within the VA.
Thank you for that. I think it's so inspirational to hear that you went and started from this area of being a healthcare practitioner and saw the problem that you wanted to fix hands-on and brought it all the way to the point of sharing it with healthcare providers across the world. Vince, same question to you. How did you find yourself pursuing science and innovation through public service?
Well, thank you, Mark. Yes, I did work in industry for a while. After graduate school, I entered government and then left for an area in industry that was kind of a golden era for the pharmaceutical products. And it was just coming into bloom. It was an area called peptides. And I enjoyed the discovery component of research, as well as bringing something to the healthcare arena, as Caitlin was outlining in her answer. So then one of the things I learned in industry that you stay very focused and you ultimately will develop a product. I worked for a research institute and pharmaceutical industry, and then I worked for a small gene transfer company in the biotech sector. When I did enter public service again, it was with a new zeal, with a taste of the process of going through the discovery process and then taking an idea into a stage of due diligence, if you will, or proof of purpose, which is what a lot of biotech or pharmaceutical companies were doing back in that time. And then ultimately tech transfer. And so government, I found, and in particular my agency, the center that you see behind me pictured is one of 4 in the United States, really allows a scientist to get involved in all 4 of those areas, or 3. So discovery, and then taking that idea and proving that it's worthwhile to pursue, and then ultimately interacting with, as I said earlier, cotton farmers, entrepreneurs, and tech transfer processes. So that was something that did and still does appeal to me about developing new products.
That's amazing. That's great. And it actually leads us into one of the next things that I wanted to talk about. Vince, both you and Sarah have this particular element of your work, which is that you work a lot with outside actors. You have organizations. Vince, for you, there's folks like, you're working with other people to obtain patents, clear regulatory approvals, develop agricultural innovations. Sarah, on your end, I know that you're working with national labs, but also academic institutions and international peers to do your work. Maybe, Sarah, I can start with you. What kind of made this large-scale cooperation essential for this innovation?
It was the contributions from a lot of those types of entities that you just mentioned, our DOE and NNSA national laboratories. There are companies that work on the target fabrication, which are exquisitely precise, bespoke, tiny targets. At Livermore, you have the operation of a 3 football field size laser. You have the requirements for the optics that go into it, the lasers that go into it, the modeling and simulation that goes into it. I mentioned the targets, the diagnostics. There's a whole variety of things that need to come together to make a tremendous world first like this. And we really need to draw on the strengths of all of these teams, including academia, to achieve such a result.
Vince, anything that you'd like to add from your particular perspective about developing and working in these public-private innovative partnerships?
Well, yes, sure, Mark. I think the government can very effectively engage with industry and vice versa by working through mutually productive research. And we've done that several times very successfully here. We've worked with industry through cooperative research and development agreements to bring those initial discovery prototypes for wound care and hygiene to a marketing stage. So establishing a CRADA is often where the tech transfer process will lead to a product development. And it does represent an important bridge between a company and the government agency to create a valuable technology and intellectual property. And in our agency, the scientists can and must actually publish their research and place it in the public domain. They also have the option of filing patents or initially filing an invention disclosure, which might lead to a patent filing. And this is something that we've worked quite a bit with, and as a part of our team in our agency, our scientists and our Office of Technology Transfer. So we've worked in that whole process with cotton farmers, entrepreneurs, other scientists, marketing companies, and manufacturers as a part of, you get involved with all of those entities as a government scientist in our agency, the Agricultural Research Service.
That's phenomenal that your work ends up lifting up so many different organizations and being a part of not just expanding the technology itself, but supporting organizations, institutions across so many different places. Caitlin, I want to come back to something that you mentioned, your focus on veteran experience, your focus on the patient outcomes. And I wanted to ask you how you think sort of that element of your program and your leadership, or your program as a whole, can serve as a model for how government can harness other kinds of emerging technologies to transform public services, especially towards communities, underserved communities that might need it most.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are definitely aspects of what we've accomplished with the VHA XR network, with VA Immersive, that could be used to model the approach for other emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and other ones that we're already looking into. Particularly that focus on the end users, both the veterans and the clinicians and other employees, and really giving them a voice in how the technology is used, as well as our efforts to prevent silos through building those communities, and how we've also promoted collaboration, both internal and external to the VA. We also use collaborative research and development agreements. We work with industry, we work with other government agencies, we work with veteran service organizations, academic leaders, researchers, to sometimes develop brand new content, to co-develop content. And collaboration, I think, is really the catalyst to success there. And I think, you know, with our efforts always focused on that value to our customer, to our veterans, to our staff, the problem to be solved or the gap to be filled, and not on the new shiny object. I think with that focus in mind, the model could be definitely very similar.
That's great to hear. Now, I could spend a lot of time just talking and learning from all three of you, but as we're coming to near the close of our program here, I wanted to get one last question in, both selfishly, but also for many people out there. Vince, I'll start with you on this one. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in pursuing science and innovation, but hasn't previously considered a career in public service?
Well, the thing that drew me to returning to public service was the broad-based foundation that government gives you to, of course, pursue the mission of the agency that you're hired in, but it also encourages creativity and to proceed innovatively on projects, and rewards that, as why we're all here today. We're being nominated for an award, and so and you see that in industry too, and it's attainable in industry in stellar ways, there's no doubt about it. Government, it gives you so many different options to pursue those key parts of research and development, discovery, if you may be doing more basic research than I did, or even applied research, and then proving it, and then ultimately the excitement of working with a team to transfer the technology.
I love that. I love that, especially the notion of transferring the technology that you developed into ways that allow it to scale up and have a life of its own. Sarah, same question over to you. What advice would you want to give someone who's interested in science and innovation as they pursue potentially exploring public service as a potential career?
Sure. I have two things to offer. The first of those is be curious. If you think that this is something that you'd like to pursue, a career in public service, talk to current public servants and find out what their job is like, what inspired them to go into the kind of work that they do, what they experience on a regular basis, and find out if that's a right fit for you. The second thing I would offer is to really identify where your passion for mission is. Vince had said mission-driven research, and I think that we all represent that here today. And the mission can be so compelling if you find a great fit. So look around across the federal government. USA Jobs is a great place to just poke around and see what's available for employment, and see what really lights your fire, because that's what's going to drive you to go far.
Amazing. Caitlin, any advice that you would give to someone interested in pursuing science and innovation who, again, might not have considered a career in public service?
I can tell you from my perspective, even as a new nurse entering the workforce, after I did an internship in the VA, I didn't want to work anywhere else. I think I turned down 6 other jobs waiting for the VA to tell me yes. And that was before I even took this particular career path. But working for the VA has allowed me to really take a career path and to help others in a way that I never thought possible in my wildest dreams. So as a nurse, or for really anyone, especially talking from my perspective with a desire to work in healthcare, I could definitely say without a shadow of a doubt that if you have an interest in pursuing innovation in healthcare, the VA should be at the top of your list. The VA listens, the VA is constantly innovative, and really provides the best opportunities to participate in innovation in healthcare if you're driven to make true impact. In our team's current work, even, VA Immersive is trying to define this new reality in healthcare through the use of immersive technology and transforming care delivery, and trying to really reinforce why veterans and staff choose VA. Like our team right now consists of a pharmacy practitioner, myself as a nurse, a rec therapist, a really diverse group of clinical backgrounds. And I'm sure none of us thought this was the path that we would take, but that really speaks to the opportunities that abound in the federal government. And, through implementation and integration of this type of technology and others that we continue to work toward, we're really hoping that others will also choose VA as well, so that we can all define that new reality in healthcare together.
Thank you so much. Caitlin, Vince, Sarah, it's been a pleasure to be able to speak with the 3 of you and to hear your phenomenal stories as public servants, as innovators, as leaders, and as Sammies finalists. Maggie, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mark. And thank you, just echoing Mark's remarks, to Caitlin, Vince, and Sarah for being here today. Congratulations on being semi-finalists, and thank you on behalf of so many of us across the country for your important innovations that you've been working on. We're so honored to be able to shine a spotlight on the work that you've been doing. And thank you to everyone tuning in. We really enjoyed bringing you these conversations with our Sammy finalists this summer. You can go to YouTube to watch the entire series if you want to catch up. And if you want to learn more about the Sammies, you can go to servicetoamericamedals.org. There you can learn more about this year's incredible honorees, sign up to learn about which of them will win a Sammies medal next month, and learn more about how you can nominate even more public servants to join their ranks in 2024. For now, thank you for watching and have a great day.